Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Factorio. Since we were last here, I think all I've added are these two extra production lines here. We've got the regular magazines and the piercing bullet magazines as well. Both of those are being produced, and you'll notice that they just go to a dead end here. That's because I don't really need to use them, but I thought it'd be cool to have them in the system, so they are going to be produced. And then if I did for some reason need a load, I could add some inserters and chests somewhere to, keep the production flow going. So they just end like that for now. And what we need to do next is start working on more of the lines down here for our potions, and also I've sort of overlooked a couple of ingredients. We're going to need a line for the transport belts and also for the smart inserters as well. So we're going to have a setup like at the previous space where we produce each type of inserter and also each type of belt as well, which is something I hadn't originally considered. But as well as the changes I've made there, I've also made some back here as well. You can see we've got these which I'm going to call buffers. It might not be the correct word for it, but basically I can put our overflow of materials in here and they'll put the items on the track, and these should take priority over ones coming from this side. So if we start producing something that needs these steel bars, then they're going to come out of the chests first before they start being produced and come out of this bit. And I've done that for these two and these two back here as well, so I had to move a few things around to get that to work, but that's a pretty cool system. You can see that I've got tons of materials. I've got even more back at base, probably more than I can actually fit in these chests for the iron plates and the copper plates. And yeah, so I'm going to be taking apart the old base bit by bit and bringing materials over here, so they're going to be quite useful. So how do I want to do this next bit? Well, I'm actually still trying to make up my mind, because what we want to do is produce these belts to go back on our main flow of items that go from one side to the other, because they're going to be used in our production of the green potions, and the same thing goes for the smart inserters as well. But the other inserters and belts that we have to make, or sorry, we only have to make these other inserters beforehand, but with the belts we want to make them after the main ingredient. So yeah, I'm really not too sure how to do it at the moment. I think what I'm probably going to do is have something very similar to what we have here with these two, except the items of this one. So let's say before it we have yellow, which gets fed back into the system, then this one's going to take yellow to make red, and then I think what the red will do is end here, and there'll just be some inserters putting them on the tracks on the opposite side to make the blue ones, which I think is pretty fair. Yeah, I think that's the best way to do that. But the inserters is going to be a different thing, because we're using the last one. Yeah, you know what I mean. We're using the last one first rather than the base ingredient. So I'm going to take some time to think about how I want to do that layout. But what I'll do now is do the one for the transport belts, and then we can see what it looks like. Okay, here is the setup, and by the way, if you press Alt you can see what everything's producing, all your factories and what your inserters are set to. Although these have only been set to one thing, so I have no idea what happens if you set it to two. I'd imagine it'll probably bring up a group of little icons there, but that's really useful. A load of you have been suggesting that in the comments for a long time. I just kept forgetting to mention it in a video. But at the moment our system has sort of been pushed a bit here. You can see there's a lack of iron clogs coming through, and there's a lack of iron as well. That's because all the iron is being used making the iron clogs at the moment. Let's just go back here so we can see that in action. Yeah, look, it's coming through and it's all going on to this bit here, which means we could possibly increase this setup here. If we made this bigger, then I think the rest of the system would benefit from it, because you can see these ones up here are not producing iron clogs. The iron isn't getting that far, so yeah. And it would definitely improve if we just expanded this bit here, which is good. But this system in general, now that I'm using it and seeing it, in action, it's hard to describe what it is, but it's like an overpowered system where you just kind of throw everything onto these tracks and just, let each thing do what it wants with it. It's not a very managed system. Now, I reckon you could build systems where things get produced evenly depending on what's available, and that would be something interesting to try as well. This is very much a powerhouse that isn't too well organised, because if you think about it, you can see here already like the bottleneck happening. And if I were to have scaled the amount of production of these yellow tracks to the red ones and then to the blue ones, what I could have done is had, say, 4 of these. I mean, I don't know the exact time it takes to make a belt, but you could judge it by time. I could have had 4 yellow, maybe 6 red, and then 8 blue, and then this wouldn't have produced so many, but it produced enough to supply the next ones and keep them going, whereas the yellow belts are really overproduced, and I don't think you're ever really going to throttle that. You see, if this had enough iron clogs, you'd probably only be using about 3 or 4 of these assembling machines on the yellow side at once, although they are going to get used for potions as well, which is interesting. And if we go all the way back over here, you can see that the iron is coming through as fast as it can, and we can actually expand this if we wanted to. In fact, I think I will do it at some point, because all we have to do is continue the design going upwards. I think we said before we could even double that, and then we would double the amount of iron clogs coming through as well, because if you look over here, the iron is not really getting to the last 3 machines, so there's 3 machines not being used there. So yeah, I'm starting to see that this system, although it's like very overpowered and kind of well organised, it's there's definitely other ways of doing things in this game. Okay, I've just been watching this sort of steadily back up, and now it's got to this point where the iron cogs down here are going to back up, and then they can pass over to the next bit. But what's going to happen then is these ones are going to start producing, and then these ones will start producing, and it's just going to shift backwards again, and I think it's going to produce the blue ones really slow. So I think what I should do next is actually expand the copper and ore production, so it should be able to cope with this better. Although by the time I finish setting that up, this will probably all be done, and we won't really be able to see it straight away. But when I create yeah, some more some more assembling machines, we might be able to see that again. The thing we're doing next is the smart inserters, and if you look at this, it's going to put a lot of strain on copper for all of those electronic circuits, but possibly it's going to put a lot of strain on iron as well, so that's going to be a really good test as well to see how well it copes with doing these. And I still haven't come up with a system for that, so I can think about that while I'm expanding our iron and copper production. Okay, I have expanded the amount of furnaces that we have down the side here. You can see it goes all the way up there for both copper and iron, and something interesting happened when I done that. There was too much iron on these belts, so it kind of got backed up here like it is at the moment, which kind of shows you the limitations of the maximum speed. So I think it was covering about the first 4 and sometimes 5 of these ones. There was so much iron coming through, they'd barely have a chance to put the iron on the track, and then the inserter's arms would be extended like they are there, so they couldn't put anything in. So at that point I thought, well, I've seen this before, you can actually put 2 tracks in to the same line, and they'll feed in more materials than one. So when I'd done that, I added these extra inserters, and then these ones were able to put down more iron, and we had more iron going into the system. And then I thought, well, this kind of acts like, I keep referring to it as a buffer, like, you know, more materials available, so why don't I do this going the whole way up? And that just means that when iron is needed, there's a lot more of it sort of stored here on the tracks, ready to be put into the system. Also, all of the materials I think are now fully backed up, because I've finished producing all of the blue ones, or maybe there's a few more to go. And I've since realised then again that when I activated all 3 of these systems at the same time, that they were just going to use a ton of materials to produce all this stuff, but now it just sits there. So if I'm to now take a few of these like that, then the only one that's going to be producing them is the one at the top and the one just below it. And you can see that all these materials now move around and they get backed up, but then it's only the ones at the top that are producing things. So I could probably take a lot of these, and because we've got all these red tracks and yellow tracks in reserve, it's not going to take up as many resources. So yeah, it's kind of like a strength to have all of these materials sort of ready to be used. But it's an interesting system, that's for sure. And when I've done the thing down the end here, I had to rearrange some of the tracks again. Nothing too much interesting there. I think there was something else that I wanted to say, but I've just forgotten about it at the moment. So I'm not sure what it is I'm going to be doing next, but when I've done it, I will be back to show you. So the other thing that I wanted to mention, I remember it now. If we have a look here, you can see we can also make landmines, and look at that, the text has gone from the bug report right there. This has actually happened to me once before. It should be that, well, you can see there's some letters missing at the top there, but last time this happened, lots of text went missing from the menu, which made it very difficult to save my game. The thing that I wanted to do was perhaps produce some of these landmines. Thinking about it, I don't need to produce the weapons. The other one was the flamethrower fuel as well, so I don't really use these, but I could have a production line for them as well, because we can set these up and just leave them here, and if ever I want to use some landmines, and some flamethrowers. They're not using any materials until there's demand for them, so I can take them off the track and yeah, it would produce more of them. But I'm really not sure about if I want to do that just yet. I want to get onto the potions. It's the whole point of building this setup is so we can make a ton of potions, have a load of materials feeding into a lot of labs, so we can do a lot of research. So I want to do the red and green potions next. There's going to be a gap between this track here, and I might just leave one here. I've got a feeling that maybe there'll be some new things coming in the future updates, so if we leave the extra track here, we could put 3 more materials in total onto the whole system, and then we're going to have a gap again, and then have another 2 tracks for the red and green potions. So what I want to do with those is break away from the design we've had already. Well, actually not break away at all, do the same thing, except the red potions are going to be on this side and the green on the other ones. It's going to be a bit of a challenge to have them both aligned up. I think it's possible though, because the green one takes circuits and these conveyor belts, so it needs some inserters here where I'm standing, and the other type of potion just needs cogs and copper, so it can go over here. So I think it's possible to have 2 of them, and then if you have a look here, the water here isn't going to be in the way, so this one can be expanded. That's our green potion production, a really long distance down here if it's needed. And there is a big coal patch there, that's good to know. I might have to hook that up at some point. So I'm going to build those next. Okay, the green potions and the red potions are now done. In fact, I think the green ones have almost finished. Yes, it would appear they finished backing up all the way, so all of the materials are probably going to be stopped using now. But you can see in the middle here, I've done something a little bit different, and this is because I made a mistake. I pictured our inserters that go to the middle belt being able to take from both lines on either side. That's not the case, they can only take from the closest one, so I had to modify it, put 2 tracks in there so they could get those electronic circuits, which normally we would come to the middle here again to get them, but we've got the cogs for the one on the other side. But that works out alright. I think that's the only time I've had to put a, what they call it, express underground belt in the middle like that before. We've got another one here actually, because I needed to be able to power these. You can see they're all so close together, there's no room to put in a electric pole, so I had to put one just there. And that's pretty much it. What we're doing here with these 2 belts is just looping round to either side of one that feeds in like this, so the items get put on either side, and it's pretty much everything you've already seen before. So I'm not sure what it is we're doing next. I think it's going to be blue and purple potions. That would be the logical thing to do, and we're probably going to do the same thing again, have blue on the top here, or maybe purple at the top, and then the other one on the bottom side. Now if we have a look at the ingredients, we're going to need, oh wait a minute, we have to do smart inserters next. In fact, I think I was supposed to do that before the green and red potions, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so that is actually the next thing to do. Well, I'll tell you what my plans for the blue and the purple ones. I was thinking that the part of the track here that feeds in the purple potions, it could actually start off by feeding in the purple, the alien artifacts, and then like this it gets redirected into one of these, and then it comes out as potions and then gets put back out like that, and then after that bit, that's where we add in the blue potions. But I'm not really sure if I want to do that, because I do want to have the option to pass through an overflow. So I keep using terms I'm not sure are the right one, it really annoys me. I want to put a load of potions in a chest like we have done with these ones back here for the other materials, so when I take apart the old base, we just dump all those potions and extra things that are lying around into those chests, and they can be added to the flow. So these won't be producing anymore until those ones run out. But we have to do smart inserters next, and like I said, I think that was what I was actually supposed to do, but I decided to do the potions instead. So again, it's going to take me some time to think about this and how I want to do it. So this episode took me a lot of time to produce. You can see all the building I've been doing, a lot of thinking goes into it as well, and now I feel like there's less to talk about this. The game isn't so familiar. We're getting to a point now where things are very time consuming to do, because we're doing it all on a large scale, and I think that's going to reflect in the LP. I think the episodes are going to be shorter like this one now, because there's a lot less to talk about. We're getting familiar with things. And there are new updates available, but they haven't added too many features yet, and at some point I'm going to have to update to that, and that will probably make for an interesting few episodes, because we should be getting attacked a lot, because the reason we're not getting attacked at the moment is kind of a bug, but this is the way I actually want to play the game. I really want to just focus on the factories and not worry about the aliens. So that'll be it for this episode. Next one we will be doing the smart inserters and all of that. And if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. It does help the channel, and support Factorio as well. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.